So I want to welcome you all to my YouTube channel. It's a new channel, and so let me get right straight into the video for today. So what we are going to be creating is this. We're going to be creating a contact a registration form like this that contains registration is field, all these fields in it, and I'm going to be using semantic UI for the front end part of it. Then there's actually no backend to this. It's just the client side validation that we're going to be doing for this video. So if I reload this page and try to submit, it brings up all the errors on the form. And for the email validation, we are going to be making use of validator for that. So I already have this project here. This is it. So I'm going to just start from afresh, so you all can see how I got this to work. Clean this up. That's all. I think I should still leave this style or not. Let me just clean that up, so we can all follow along fresh. So save that. Actually, this is a project I started for someone. It's a volunteer project. So this is just one part of the project, which includes the registration of users. So it's going to be more secured, but for the first part, let's just get right to it. So first, I'm going to create a React component, which we're going to call register. So I'm going to remove the props, then remove this and put it under here. I prefer it like this, so call it register. We save that. So I'm using ESLint for my project. If you need a video to show you how to set up ESLint with your project, please put a comment below for that, so I can consider making one for anyone who is interested. So for now, so we have a constructor here. Then I'm going to remove this props, since I'm not going to be making use of props for this video. So I'm going to set the state. So we are going to have this state goes to an empty state. So in this state, we are going to be having a data object which is going to contain all the user details. So we're going to have first name here, going to be equals to an empty string. So we have last name also equals to an empty string. Then we have email, empty string. Then we have address equals to an empty string. So what else? For now, I've not really perfected the date of birth, but please, if you have any method of getting the date of birth to work, please let me know in the comments below. I really appreciate that, so I can include that in the next video. Thank you very much. So but for now, I'm still going to include date of birth. There goes to an empty string. So after this data objects, we're going to have another object which is going to contain arrays of the errors. It's going to be equals to an empty object for now. So I'm just going to be putting the loading function also, but we're not going to make use of that. That'll be in the next video, depending on how this video does, which is going to inspire me to make another one. So for now, this is all we are going to make use of. So we'll go into the render, then do this, remove this. So we're going to make use of semantic UI form for this. Sorry. So it's giving me this error because form is not defined. So I'm going to call that into here. Import form. I'm going to using button also. Then we're also going to be making use of button form, then card also. So getting that from React. So we're still having these little errors here because the button is defined but never used. We're still going to make use of that, but for now let's just stick to this. So for semantic UI, as you can see, the page is totally empty for now. So when we go back to semantic UI, let me reload this page. It's loading docs. Internet connection is a little bit slow around here, so I'm going to wait a little bit for this to load. Okay. Then into this is the semantic UI documentation. It's very well documented. I recommend you guys to try it out. Try using semantic UI. You're going to like it. So I'm just going to copy this form here. This is what we're going to be using for our project. So we come down here, let's clean this and put this. So I'm using Prettier for the formatting and indentation of this of my editor. I'm actually using Atom. So after doing that, you can see some little linting here from the label. So first of all, I'm going to create another form field. See, this one is going to be for the first name, then this for the last name. Comments work here. And that one, this is going to be for the email, and this for the address, and finally this for date of birth. And I'm going to take out the checkbox. I'm not going to make use of it. So that's all. So now let's start formatting the forms. So first name, placeholder first name. Let's see, let's change this. Let's see, enter first name for that. You save that. Then we're going to have a name here. Name is going to be exactly the same thing as the state we defined up here, which is first name. So we say first name up there. We're going to also have a value. Okay, value is going to be this dot state dot data dot first name. That's going to be the value. Then we're also going to have an onChange event, which is going to help us undo the change. Immediately the user input something into the input field. So it's going to be this dot input change, and input change. So that's that. As you can see, it helps me to format it in a very nice looking and neat way. So that's for that. So we're going to do the same thing for the other fields, which is the last name, and for here let's put the HTML4. That's why it's showing the error. So for here, it's going to be last name. Then we have the last name there. Then placeholder enter last name. Then we also have name to be equals to, remember it has to be exactly the same value as it is in the state. So after the name, put the value, this dot state dot data dot last name. And I just want to point something out. Instead of doing this, we can also come here under the render, then create a const, then bring in data from equals to this dot state. So from here on, instead of doing this long tiring thing, we can just do this data dot first name and data dot last name. So we save that, then I think that, so we have the name, the value, then the unchange. Change. Instead of copying that away, just copy it and come here, and inside here put the name, email. So we're going to change this to, let's say, John Doe at so we're going to have email here, change this to email, HTML for email. So it will be name and the value. So we have data.email. Then under that we have the unchange. Okay, copy that, just paste it in, and move to the last demo. So it's it yes. So here it's like not done for the address. So let's make this the address. Let's make, so we can make date of birth last. Address, and here is going to be enter address. We save that. So here we're going to put in the name, which is address. Save that. Value, data dot address, save that also. Then paste in the unchange. Then the last one going to be the date of birth in the placeholder here. Oops. I don't think we're going to need a placeholder for this, so let me just take this out. Instead, we're going to need a type, which is going to be a date, so we can get the HTML5 date picker function working in there. So the next thing, we need a name. So it's going to be date of birth, exactly the same thing, always remember that. Then after that, we're also going to make use of the value, which is data dot date of birth. Then since we're not going to be building the handler for the date of birth, we're going to leave that like that, the way it is. So let's go on to, let's see what we have in our form. So we have our form here. Doesn't look so good, but we can change that. So first thing is first, I'm going to wrap this entire form in a card. Since we're going to make use of a card, take this down to the bottom, declare after the form, and after the card, I'm going to add the card dot content. Copy this down to the bottom also. Save, format it for us, then go back to the top. Then first I want to add an ID here. So this ID is going to help out with a little bit of box shadow. So I already wrote that code previously when I was writing the other components for this project, so I'm just going to include that here, which is card wrapper. So for that to work, let me see. Works. That's a surprise. So let me just import CSS. This. Let me see. Okay, so we have a little bit of elevation with the box shadow there. So the next thing we are going to do now is to give this div a class name. Call both of them a class name. What's this? Class name will be equals to whatever we want them to be. But this is going to be form edit. So it's going to be form wrapper. So let's edit the form wrapper first in the view.css. So we see dot form dash wrapper. So for that, we're going to give it a background color of let me get the color for that. I'm going to come down here to material or color. I like making use of this for colors. Of that stuff. So I'm going to put this here for the background color. Sorry for the noise. So let's see how it looks now. So it gives it this background, but it doesn't get to the bottom. So we go back down, then height of 100 VH. Yeah, it goes down to the bottom now. Now I have to place this at the center. So we're going to come down to dots from edit. Remember the class name for the card. So we're going to give it a position. Sorry, mistake. Absolute there. Then we want the left to be 50%. Right to also be 50%. Top should also be 50%. Okay, pretty getting error because of the semicolons. So add that to it. So we're going to do a, let's see how that looks first. See, it's not looking good. So we do transform. Translate. Normally we're supposed to use the translate X and Y, but to write shorter code we just use translate. Then put both of them in there. So minus 50% for X, then minus 50% for Y. So we go back up and we have it centered. So looking a little bit good for the UI there. So the next thing we're going to focus on now, that's for the CSS. We're going to, let's first build our error message that's going to be printed out as a span under each of the input fields. So we're going to, let's just use a create a function. in case if you're using Atom, you just need to install reactjs 6 plugin for this. You should be able to do this. Then I'm going to call this error message. Then take out the props. Okay, we're going to make use of props, so let's still leave that there. Take out the exports. Take out these prop types like that. Then bring the exports. Defaults. Just like that, should work. So here we're going to be putting in parameter text, which we're going to use as a property outside this component. So let's not do this. So it's going to be outputting a span. Let's change this to span, and inside here we're going to output the text, which is going to be the error that we get from the event handlers. So after that, it's telling us text is missing in props validation. So first of all, we're going to import prop types. This one, the one with the lowercase, from prop types. In case you might get an error in your code for this, so you have to go into your terminal first. I already have it installed. Stop your server, then you do yarn add prop dash types. So once you run this code, it's supposed to install that for you. Then since I already have it installed, I'm not going to do that. So telling us, okay, it's going to restart this server. So while it's doing that, let's focus here. So it's telling us prop types is defined but never used. So we're going to come here, then we add text here, then we say prop types dot string dot is required. So that error should clear up, and we have it here. So we're going to add a color to this. Okay, sorry, we have to put this style here in inline styling. So we're going to say color is going to be equals, let's find the color for this. So this is the actual project I'm building, church. So we're going to get this style from here. We're going to use the same type of color used by semantic UI. Okay, on the error message. So I'm just going to do a little bit of something here with the color picker. Pick the color to pick this red, then copy that, Ctrl C, go into my project, put that there. So that should give the error message a red color. Yes, that's, I'm using pigments for this. Okay, so since we're done with this, let's go back to our register. And first of all, let's start with the on input change function. So we see on input change equals to event. We're listening for an event. Then inside there, we're going to check. We're going to set the state of the data. So we say this dot set states. This dot set state. So inside here, we're going to set data to be. So we're going to be using the spread operator here. The reason why we're going to be using that is so that whatever is inputted into the form field, we want to save that value back into the state. So we say this dot state dot data to comma. The next we want to do the e dot target dot dot name equal that to e dot target dot the value. So we are going to be collecting the value, then passing it into the name so that our state can get those values. So that's for the input change. So the next function we are going to create now is the onSubmit function. It's going to have empty parameter. So this is how it's going to be. So in the form here, we are going to put in the onSubmit here. It's dot onSubmit like that. So once the user is done filling the form and clicks the submit button, in case if there's any error, it's going to prompt us with this function we are going to create now. So in this function, we are going to take set errors to be equals to this dot validate. And the reason why we are doing this is we are not going to be validating the errors, the form inside the onSubmit function. We are going to be doing that in a separate function. So whatever error we get in the validate function is going to be passed back into the onSubmit function. So to do that, we are setting a const errors to be equals to this dot validate function, and inside the parameter they're going to take in this dot state.data, because that's what we want to validate. So after doing that, setting that, so the next thing now to do is to create the validate this function. But I forgot something. I'm supposed to set the state of the of this error to once we get an error. So say this dot set state errors. So we're going to be putting in the errors. That's that on submit. We get an error here is not defined. What is that? Not defined. Okay. Oh. Mistakenly put the onSubmit function in this other function here. In the input change. So we take that out, put it on its own, so that should work well. So the next thing we're going to do now is to create the validate function, which is going to undo the validation. So we say validate equals to, we're going to be taking in data. So inside the validate, we're going to set error equals to an empty object, and after that we're going to return errors. So through here we are going to return errors, so error can be made use in the onSubmit function. So from here we can start validating our form field. So first of all, we validate for the first name. Say if first name data dot first name equals to empty field. Say errors dot first name should be equals to name can't be black. Okay, so this should help us validate for the first name. So we're going to, since it's the same validation for the last name, just change this to last name. Let me see, last name can be blank. Then to the next one, which is the email. So for this, we are going to make use of validator, so I'm going to import that right under semantic UI. So we say import validator from sorry, I'm to be tired. So we import validator from validator. So we save that. It's giving me an error that defined but never used. So in case for you guys, since you have not yet installed validator, so you're just going to do this. You stop your server and you see yarn add validator to your project. So this should add. If you're using npm, use npm add, I think, or npm install validator dash save, or just validator. I think anyone works fine. So after doing that, this should help you install validator, but I'm going to cancel that since I already have it installed. So start my server backup. So after, okay, it's going to load up the server again. Cancel that. So while it's loading, let's continue with the validation. So let me go down to this. So we say for validating the email, we say if not validator dot is email, which is a function in validator. So inside the is email, we are going to be passing in our email, which is data.email for validation.